I think one of the key things about Harrow is its focus beyond its walls. So it has a very outward focus in the congregation and is very always looking for opportunities to be involved in the neighborhood and in the world. We've been involved in conversations and initiatives and events seeking to find pathways towards reconciliation and healing between settlers and Indigenous folks.
What we were kind of hoping for with this garden, and again with the signage and everything, was to spark that interest in people walking by, right? As they see this, go, oh, what does this mean? Why is this here? Right? Hoping that they're going to ask why these plants are here, what they do, what their purpose was. And just to, and by that way, you spread awareness, you spread knowledge, and hopefully the individuals that come by to take a look at the garden and ask about the garden then take that knowledge and spread it to their friends and their family and go, oh, I was by Harrow United Church and I saw this lovely garden and I learned about what sweetgrass is used for. And I learned why we have sage and I learned the sacredness of tobacco. So activities like, planting this garden on church grounds, right, to me is a way of the church continuing that apology, continuing that reconciliation, and continuing to try and find ways to rebuild those relationships that we should have.
And so we also have a history of gardening here at Harrow. Lots of beautiful gardens. And at the moment, Susan is our main gardener, but over the years there have been lots of different people who have taken on that role. And a few years ago, she wanted some garden beds to grow some vegetables, and so those are over on the other part of the property. Those are provided to food banks and to community ministries, and so they're grown to go outside the community. And then more recently, she's been wanting to expand the garden beds, and we've had the opportunity this year to finally do that. And with Logan and Karen's help, we have now been able to put in some of the native prairie species as well as some of the medicinal plants and healing medicines. We have an opportunity not only to extend the gardens and to beautify the property, but primarily to extend opportunities for relationship and conversations.
So kind of revamping the garden here to bring in both traditional medicinal plants that were used by the First Nations here in Manitoba, the boreal forest area, as well as plants that just grow here naturally, right? And we've also got a Three Sisters planting, which is more from my territory, right from the Haudenosaunee territory, the Iroquois. So the corn, beans, and squash, right? So in our worldview, and this is universal across Turtle Island, it's expressed a little differently from nation to nation, but all plants are sacred. The plant world is just as sacred and honorable as the human world, as the animal world, and all of these worlds are interconnected and interdependent upon each other. We planted the four main medicines, right? So tobacco, cedar, sage, and sweetgrass. Okay? Tobacco of the four sacred medicines is the most important, right? It is the first one that Creator gave to us as a sacred medicine. Among my people, the Haudenosaunee, we say that when Sky Woman fell from the sky, she had tobacco seeds and corn, beans, and squash and strawberries and all the good medicines. She had them under her fingernails, right? So when and then we also planted the corn, beans, and squash. We also planted the Three Sisters. We often think of these as merely food plants, but they are sacred as well, right? Because the Three Sisters, the corn, beans, and squash, they support each other. The corn takes nitrogen from the air and puts it into the ground, which the beans need to grow. And the corn also supports the beans as they grow up the corn stalks. The squashes prevent the weeds and keep the moisture in the ground with their big leaves. And squashes are also kind of prickly, so they'll keep the critters out, right? So all three of the plants help support each other, like Three Sisters should support each other, like families should support each other. So the four plants, sage, tobacco, cedar, those are used in all ceremonies, right? Tobacco is the starter. It is the one that activates all the other medicines, right? So in smudges, tobacco is going to be in all of them, right? You'll usually find all four, right? Sage, cedar, tobacco, in all of them. And what the tobacco and the sage and the cedar and the sweetgrass does is, when we smudge, you will often see us do this, and then we will do that, and then we will do this, and then this, right? So what we're doing with the smudge and with the smoke is we're clearing our mind of negative thoughts and negative energy. We're clearing our eyes so we can see. We're clearing our ears so we can hear, and our mouths and our hearts so we can hear and listen with openness and goodness in our hearts and our minds. We're clearing away all those negative energies. And the smoke is what carries our prayers up to the Creator. I would like to see more things like this, right? More efforts on the part of the settler population to learn, to understand, and to try and build relationships with us.
And over the years, we've had a number of speakers and seminars. We hosted a display from the Brandon Residential School that was put together by United Church folks out in Brandon, but was lent to us. And so we had that on display here for a few days, and it was very interesting as people came through, including school groups, and came to hear about and to see pictures. And even one of our folks talks poignantly about an Indigenous man who stood for a long time staring at the pictures, and when she went to speak to him, he said, "That was my bunk right there." The graves that we've been hearing about in the Brandon area, because there's 3 different grave sites there, but she had already been researching that. So we had a presentation about that, and there was a whole group of kids came from Calvin School with a teacher, as well as lots of community people, to hear that. There is a definite interest and hunger on the part of people, I think, to hear these stories, as difficult as they are, and to tell these stories, as painful as that is for those folks. And we're just very grateful that some of them are willing to do that and to share their stories. Someone who'd done a lot of history on Roostertown, which really starts just a few blocks from here, and which met its final end when property was expropriated for the Pan Am Pool, the Grant Park High School, the Grant Park Shopping Center. And so that was a wonderful presentation too. And some people it was a surprise, and others said, "Yeah, I remember going to school with kids who lived there."
you.